Hello and welcome. We're up here in the Greensboro Cultural Arts Center on the second floor of where ArtQuest is inside of Greenhill Center for North Carolina Art. And I'm pleased to introduce, to welcome, to have as my guest here on this program, Leigh Dyer, who is the new Executive Director of Greenhill Center for North Carolina Art. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's get the public to get to know you, who you are, where you grew up. How about we start there?
Well, I'm kind of from all over North Carolina, which I think is appropriate for the Center for North Carolina Art. I grew up in Charlotte. I went to school in Durham at Duke. Go Blue Devils. And my first job out of college was in Winston-Salem. So I lived in Winston-Salem for several years, then back to Charlotte, where I did start working in the arts there at the Mint Museum. And I worked there for 7 years. And then I tried another line of work, and I missed the arts, and then Greenhill came along. So here I am, very thrilled to be here.
What drew you to the arts?
That's a really good question. I was a journalist writing about and covering the arts, and I was interviewing artists, and the Mint itself had opened this gigantic new complex in downtown Charlotte, which was really exciting to see, and I covered that story as a journalist. And then about a year later, they had an opening to do communications for that museum, and that just really spoke to me. It was a story that I knew about and cared and had a lot of passion about, and then the more I got into it, the more it just was sort of a calling. I really enjoyed working for the arts and making them be a part of people's lives.
Yeah, writing for the arts, that's interesting. I've always heard it said that, you need critique, you need exposure, you need detail into the arts.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I've always looked at it as letting other people tell their stories. So, yeah, it's just another way to tell stories about who we are as human beings, I guess.
Absolutely. So tell me what drew you here to Greenhill and how you found this position.
Right. So I really love Greenhill. I'm brand new here. I just started in January of this year. And I think what's special about it is that people in Greensboro really seem to feel a sense of ownership and allegiance to it. It's our place. It's Greensboro's place. But yet it nurtures artists from all across the state. It's a great place to bring your kids. It's a great place for the whole family. And it's a great place to come with a group of grown-ups and tour the galleries. So it's really just one of those rare things that offers something for everyone.
Had you been here before?
I mean, I had heard of it as a representative of a large statewide art organization. There are definitely artists from Charlotte who participate, from the other places where I've lived, but I didn't know nearly as much about it before as I did once I started looking into it, to join the center.
Mm-hmm. So, before we get into the weeds of Greenhill and everything, tell me about Greensboro as a whole, and I guess just your impression of it, just being here.
Well, I think it's a really wonderful place where it's easy to feel at home. It is very welcoming to newcomers. I think maybe something I've noticed about the culture here, people like to have parties in their homes, cocktail parties, to get to know each other, more so than, say, going out to the latest new brewery or something like that as a way of meeting or greeting newcomers. And I like that because it's a friendly way of welcoming people. So I like the growth I've seen, the development, lots of exciting things happening with your relatively new ballpark, relatively new cultural arts center, the Tanger Center for Performing Arts. So the International Civil Rights Museum is very exciting and has a lot of exciting programming. So culturally, it's a great place to be.
Okay, cool. And you just told me before we went on that you did a lot of reading, a lot of research on the history of Greenhill and all that stuff. Tell me. Let's get into the
one of the
weeds on
special things about joining Greenhill right now is that next year we're going to be celebrating its 50th anniversary, and as we've talked a little about, that's an impressive accomplishment for a small nonprofit. So I have been researching what happened back in 1974, and it was a group of artists who came together. There was a strong arts program emerging at UNCG and other places, and the artists didn't really have a gallery where they could show and sell their work. So it started as just a Greensboro thing. Later in its mission, it became statewide for all artists, but they wanted a place that they could call their own. Interestingly, the name Greenhill, what do you associate that with here in Greensboro besides us?
cemetery?
There is a cemetery. Yes, so we were
She's testing me too
Yes,
now.
we were in fact named after that cemetery because the initial group leased the caretaker's home, which I believe is still there on Battleground Avenue, and that was going to be where Green Hill was. And unbeknownst to them, there was already a group of civic leaders working on putting together this downtown cultural center to be a home for all the small arts nonprofits, from dance to music to every discipline. And so fortunately, this group, which was led by the great Betty Cohn, who's still here with us, persuaded Green Hill to not occupy the caretaker's home, and I'm very glad I don't have to park in a cemetery every morning to come to work. So very glad we're here as part of this wonderful cultural facility in the heart of downtown Greensboro.
Okay, cool. And tell me about ArtQuest and June 2nd. Tell me about the big announcement on June 2nd.
Sure. So a lot of people from Greensboro, one of the reasons they might know of Green Hill is because they grew up coming to ArtQuest. It was founded here in 1996. It used to be the whole area was just an art gallery for display of art, but there was this desire to have the educational component, to educate children, to keep that pipeline of growing emerging artists, people who grew up wanting to be artists who could then turn around and become professionals who sell their work here in Green Hill. So ArtQuest was founded in 1996 with a great community push. Hundreds of people came together, put together the funding, put together an endowment that still lasts to this day to keep this very special place here. So I look at it as sort of a maker space where you can come in and create art. We have the different stations. You might be doing something with splatter paint or with clay or with a collage, run by our wonderful educational director. And we have very special programs. We have an after-school program. We have the summer camps, and we do programming for adults. You can come here for an adult workshop or a corporate team building workshop or a grown-up's birthday party if you want to reserve that here. And so it's really about educating in the wonderful ways that art develops your mind when you're young, and developing those STEAM principles. They show it goes along with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The art develops your brain right along with those other disciplines. And it's just creating that educational opportunity. Again, we call it sort of creating the future artists of North Carolina here in our studios.
And why is it important for kids, and maybe even adults, to be hands-on? I know you mentioned STEM to be an important factor in that, but why is it important for kids and maybe their development or whatever to have hands-on and learning with arts?
Absolutely. I mean, haven't you seen the difference between, especially if it's a group of younger kids, a teacher standing up and talking to them and at them and lecturing versus handing them something and letting them play with it? I mean, all the science agrees children learn through play and learn through touch and sensory input. So it's really a part of, one way to put it would be visual literacy. Just learning about how they interact with the world around them, and maybe they mix two different paint colors and see what happens to the color spectrum, or they mix paint and water and see what that's a chemical solution and see what happens to it, or they learn how to balance two pieces to create a piece of sculpture that can balance itself, and that's engineering. So it just fits together with all the other disciplines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, you just get to explore, you get to be hands-on. I think a lot more people are more hands-on than sometimes even they realize.
Right. Well, I personally am not an artist. I'm an art appreciator and a person who's written about the arts. But what I love about this space is we will keep art stations set up. We have open studios, and nobody's telling you what you have to do. You come in and you choose your own thing to create. So I have found myself, I'll be here, we'll have a staff meeting here, and I'll start picking up some pieces, and I'll just end up making something because it's soothing, it's stress relief. Some hospitals have learned that, having art classes can be a part of a wellness program. It can relieve stress and encourage people with their healing. So it's really, art is magical.
You have a little bit of everything here. I see we got some cardboard,
Right.
look like milk crates or something to that nature.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of everything in this
Right.
space to
encourage creativity.
Yes.
And this wonderful forest we're sitting in front of, it's entirely recycled, upcycled, repurposed objects, and we owe some thanks to Reconsidered Goods that helped us find, including some very tree-shaped objects that we could use to create, or that the very generous artist who has created this could use to create this installation. So We're very grateful. So it's still a work in progress, but we're gonna finish it by, if you get a chance to see this program before June 2nd, we're having a big community celebration to sort of celebrate the reemergence of the name ArtQuest and the place ArtQuest. It's always been here, but it's gone by a few different names, and we just want everyone to know it's ArtQuest.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's happening on First Friday, June 2nd.
Yes.
Big party.
Right.
Music.
And we're actually known for good parties every first Friday of the month here in the Cultural Center. It's actually collaboration with the city and the other galleries here, so it's always a good place to be on the first Friday evening of the month. So just keep that in mind.
Right. I hope it's warm. This place is always hopping on a First Friday. So.
Definitely.
Anyway, where can people find these events and these types of things?
You should definitely check it out on greenhillnc.org. greenhillnc.org. Don't forget the NC. That's where we keep a great calendar of events, of everything coming up, and our exhibitions. We've got, through the end of June, you'll see this wonderful exhibition on collaboration in craft. So everything that's in our gallery was collaborated by at least 2 artists, and in some cases more. There's one that was an entire classroom of children with a professional artist creating a collaboration. And then later in the summer, we're going to be bringing in an exhibition of photography, beautiful photography by a very famous North Carolina photographer, John Rosenthal. It'll be a retrospective of his career. So,
do you have any, as you're taking on this new role, do you have any visions for the future? Do you have any big goals, big plans? What do you have?
I think there's so much potential here. It's done a wonderful job here in Guilford County, just being creative and serving the people of Guilford County. And we are a statewide organization in that we represent artists from across the state, and we've done a really good job of being known among the artists. What I want to be known for is among the public of the state. I want you, if you live in Asheville, if you live in Wilmington, if you live in Charlotte or Raleigh, I want you to know who Green Hill Center for North Carolina Art is. I want you to consider it a destination. If you decide you want to buy the work of a North Carolina artist for your home, I want you to come here to buy it. So my aspirations are really to raise our statewide profile while I'm here.
And you also have memberships and things of that nature, don't
Absolutely.
you?
That's a great way to both support Green Hill and get some things for yourself, because when you're a member here, you get discounts, you get unlimited visits here in the studio to bring your kids and make some art. And if you go higher in our membership levels, you might earn, for example, a chance to have a free private tour with our curator. Our curator can come to your home and consult with you on building your own art collection. So if you go to greenhillnc.org and check the Join Us or Become a Member link, it will show you all the different benefits of becoming a member here.
And I could tell you from experience that Edie, her knowledge is like incredible.
Yeah.
She'll tell you more than, she'd probably forgotten more than I could remember, so.
I absolutely agree. She's a wonderful curator and really makes every exhibition we put on view special.
Yeah, she's very, very detail oriented.
Right. So. And also don't forget we have a gift shop too, so you can start your art collection here. And again, everything made in North Carolina. You're supporting the economy of North Carolina. I look at artists as small business people trying to make their living selling their art, and we're here to help them do that.
Okay, cool. John, do you have anything?
No, I am just fascinated for all that she has just talked about. But looking forward to the future, what do you see the ArtQuest program being a year from now, 5 years from now?
Right.
Will it be a bigger part of what we're sitting in now, or?
Right. Well, so if you look at Green Hill and ArtQuest at Green Hill, that is also part of the name, ArtQuest at Green Hill. To understand, it is the same institution. We're sort of divided half and half. So the front part is the exhibitions of the finished professional work of North Carolina artists. Again, here is where it all starts, where you start the spark of creativity in children on up to adults. And so I think as ArtQuest grows, first of all, we do have the potential to serve even more of the underserved populations of North Carolina who maybe don't have as much exposure to art. Most of the kids who come here for a field trip, it is their first time ever being in a gallery. So we want to give more kids that chance for exposure. There are counties in North Carolina that don't have a museum or gallery. We might have a chance to perhaps increase our transportation, get a few other people to get a chance to have that gallery or museum experience. We might be able to bring our experience out to them as a pop-up. We have developed a curriculum that is teaching the relationship between ecology and art, like drawing attention to environmental issues through art, like building things out of plastic water bottles and then talking about how plastic water bottles really contribute a lot of waste and can't effectively be recycled in the current modern market. So that curriculum is something that can go to school systems outside of Guilford County. So, like I said, I think the educational component, just like the artistic component of Green Hill, can be elevated into a statewide profile across the state. So, again, lots of potential here. We'll see what the next 50 years holds for the future of Green Hill. It's been a pretty good first 50 years, right?
That's about all I have. Do you have anything you want to add that you want to?
Yeah, well, can I talk about that other event? So,
Yeah, oh yeah.
one
yeah.
of the things we love to do here is have special events where we're creating interactive experiences with art, with artists, sometimes with food, sometimes with music. We like bringing in all the different components. So you'll see a lot of that around our 50th anniversary in 2024, and we'll tell you a lot more about it. But one thing we have coming up very soon is a new program called Art Taste. And it's a chance to experience a tasting menu from world-renowned chefs in our galleries. So if you're seeing this before May 31st, that is our first program, and it's a partnership with Machete, and they're gonna bring their chefs in here and bring in tasting-sized portions of food that are inspired by our art. And I mentioned we have a photography exhibit coming up next, and it's all black and white photography. So we're going to do another art taste program where it's going to be a black and white themed menu. And I'm looking forward to a chef experiencing some creativity with that. So again, we are always looking at different ways for people to experience art, share the experience with their friends.
takes 30 seconds to make it. But I don't know how many days of prep, rolling on the UV inhibitor. They're very archival, and if it's gloss or matte, and some give it a texture if it's really like newspaper. So there's a lot of prep, a lot of post. Or, I do a lot of other things. I don't just do candy. Since this is a sweet show, we're just doing candy. But, money, newspapers, comic books, all the ephemera, that which is sort of over. Magazines, newspapers, even paper money, is days are numbered, So all of this stuff is sort of a little monument to everything that everybody, is anything more every day than a newspaper or a dollar bill or a candy wrapper, So it's just the everyday item being sexy.
And it's not just paper, it's beyond, it's an illusion of paper. It's magnified. And the last thing to go will be the paper money. Yeah, I knew it was over when I threw out my yellow pages. I don't need this. Do you need the yellow pages anymore? Do you have your phone book? Some people are still stuck to their newspapers and magazines, but as soon as they get an iPad or something, it's going to be over for that too. And one day when I owe you $5, I'll just pull out my little device and shoot $5 to your little device, and there will be no paper money.
Because of that show, was that 7 years ago? This place has a sort of have a soft spot.
So I wanted to create an image where it wasn't always immediately recognizable what the food was or what the image is. I wanted a different view. So unlike a wide view of a cup of Tang, it's like looking down into the cup of Tang, sort of a different view. And this again, this is where it's kind of art. It's just sort of why does something look balanced or work? It just sort of felt right when it was interesting and kind of hovering between two different views. Now when I kind of wanted to just sort of look kind of like a mouse a little bit. So that one's a little bit different. And this one's supposed to be really kind of gross, the Cheese Whiz. It's just so greasy and it's supposed to look like guts. And Pizza Hut's actually, so a lot of these I was very specific about what I chose. So Pizza Hut is one of the #1 pizza chains, because across the world there's Pizza Huts. So I would think Domino's would be #1. It's Pizza Hut. And I've made work in circles before. I think it is interesting. There's no corners, and so your eye goes into the piece versus kind of expanding out. Another way to call it is the tondo for the circle. They're abstract, but then also you can see specifics. Like the Campbell's soup, there's actually a spoon coming up, but it also kind of looks like a tongue, I think. It's just great to be here, and a lot of my work is that I make my work to create dialogue and ask questions. So it's here in the gallery, but I also would love this to be out in a community center or a gallery. One thing I like about this gallery is I know school groups will come here and other people from the community will come here, but I make it to kind of have people ask questions and to bring attention to things.